Jake Morrison stood near the tall windows of the Valerian Palace. His eyes scanned every corner of the great hall. The room was filled with aliens who looked almost human but had skin that shimmered with a soft silver glow. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, and they moved with grace that seemed impossible. He was part of Earth's diplomatic team. His job was simple: protect Ambassador Claire Bennett. The ambassador was talking with Valerian officials about a trade deal. Earth needed special minerals from this planet. These minerals could help humans travel faster through space. Jake had been a soldier for 12 years before joining the diplomatic service. He knew danger when he saw it. Something felt wrong today. The palace guards were moving in strange patterns. Their hands stayed too close to their weapons. A bell rang through the hall. Everyone stopped talking. A door opened at the far end of the room. Queen Isara entered first. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Her presence commanded respect. Behind her walked a younger woman. This was Princess Lissa, the queen's only daughter. The princess had violet eyes that seemed to see everything. She moved with careful steps, like someone who had been trained to be perfect. Jake noticed she kept her face calm, but her hands were tight at her sides. She was nervous. The ceremony began. Valerian nobles gave speeches about honor and strength. Jake tried to focus on the words, but his training kept pulling his attention elsewhere. 3 guards near the east wall were standing too stiff. Their eyes kept moving to the princess instead of watching the crowd. Ambassador Bennett whispered to him. She asked if something was wrong. Jake told her he was not sure. He just had a bad feeling. She nodded and moved slightly behind him. The ambassador trusted his instincts. Then it happened. One of the guards near the east wall moved fast. He pulled out a weapon that glowed with blue energy. The weapon aimed directly at Princess Lissa. 2 more guards did the same. These were not guards at all. They were killers dressed as guards. Jake did not think. His body moved on pure instinct. He ran toward the princess faster than he thought possible. The Valerian guards were shouting. Queen Isara was screaming. The blue weapons fired. Jake crashed into Princess Lissa. He pushed her down to the floor. His body covered hers like a shield. Heat exploded across his shoulder and chest. The plasma blast hit him instead of the princess. The pain was unlike anything he had ever felt. It burned through his uniform and into his skin. He heard more weapons firing. The real palace guards were fighting the attackers. Jake tried to stay conscious. He needed to make sure the princess was safe. Her violet eyes stared up at him. She looked shocked and afraid. The princess said something in her language. Jake could not understand the words. His vision was getting dark. The pain was spreading through his whole body. He heard the queen's voice getting closer. Then everything went black. When Jake woke up, he was in a room he did not know. The walls glowed with soft light. Medical equipment surrounded his bed. Some of it looked familiar. Other machines were completely alien. He tried to move, but his body would not respond. Everything felt heavy. A door opened. Ambassador Bennett rushed to his side. She looked tired but relieved. She told him he had been unconscious for 3 days. The plasma blast should have killed him. Valerian doctors used their advanced technology to save his life. The burns were still healing, but he would survive. Jake asked about the princess. Bennett smiled. The princess was safe. Jake had saved her life. The attackers were all dead or captured. They were rebels who hated the idea of aliens visiting Valoria. They wanted to kill the princess to stop the alliance with Earth. Then Bennett's face became serious. She told Jake that Queen Isara wanted to see him. The queen was grateful, but there was a problem. In Valerian culture, saving royal blood created something called a life debt. Jake was now bound to the royal family by ancient law. Jake did not understand what that meant. Bennett explained carefully. A life debt was a serious thing. Jake could not leave Valoria until the queen decided how he could repay this debt. It could take weeks, months, or even years. Jake felt his stomach drop. He just wanted to go home to Earth. The next day, Queen Isara came to his room. She moved with quiet power. Her silver skin seemed to glow brighter in the medical lights. She stood at the end of his bed and looked at him with ancient eyes. Jake tried to sit up, but his body still hurt too much. The Queen spoke in perfect English. She thanked him for saving her daughter. Her voice was formal but warm. She told him that he showed great courage and honor. These were the most important values in Valerian society. Because of his actions, he was now part of something larger than himself. The Queen explained the life debt again. She said Jake would remain on Valoria as a guest of the royal household. He would be given quarters in the palace. When he was healed, she would find ways for him to serve and repay his debt. Only then could he return to Earth. Jake wanted to argue, but he saw the steel in her eyes. This was not a discussion. It was a decision already made. 2 weeks passed before Jake could walk without pain. The Valerian doctors were amazed at how fast he healed. They told him that humans were tougher than they expected. Jake just wanted to get back to normal life, but he was learning that normal no longer existed for him. Ambassador Bennett visited him every day. She brought news from Earth. The diplomatic team had returned home without him. The trade negotiations were successful. Earth and Valoria were now partners. But Jake had to stay behind because of the life debt. Bennett looked guilty every time she talked about it. She explained more about what the life debt meant. In Valerian culture, someone who saves royal blood becomes bound to the crown. Jake was now considered part of the royal household. He would live in the palace. He would serve the Queen in whatever way she decided. The debt could only be repaid when the Queen said it was repaid. There was no way around it. Jake protested. He said this was not fair. He was just doing his job. Bennett shook her head. She told him that refusing would be a terrible insult. It would destroy the alliance between Earth and Valoria. Millions of people on Earth needed the minerals from this planet. Jake's personal freedom was less important than the greater good. Jake felt trapped. He agreed to stay, but he was not happy about it. Bennett left to return to Earth. She promised to tell his family that he was safe. Before she went through the portal home, she turned back. She told Jake that he might find something valuable here. He just needed to keep an open mind. The next day, palace servants moved Jake to new quarters. His room was larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The walls changed colors based on the time of day. The furniture adjusted itself to his body. Everything was comfortable but also completely strange. This was not home. A Valerian man came to his door. He introduced himself as Toric. He would be Jake's attendant and guide. Toric was shorter than most Valorians, with darker silver skin. His eyes showed kindness that Jake had not expected. Toric explained that his job was to help Jake understand Valerian ways. He would teach Jake how to act in the palace. Toric started the lessons immediately. Valerian society had strict rules. Every person had a rank. People of higher rank must be greeted first. When speaking to nobles, Jake must keep his voice quiet and calm. He should never look directly into the eyes of anyone above his station. The list of rules seemed endless. Jake found the rules frustrating. On Earth, people valued equality. Here, everyone seemed to accept their place in society without question. He asked Toric why they followed such strict rules. Toric explained that order prevented chaos. Everyone knowing their place meant everyone was safe. It was the Valerian way. On his third day in the palace, Princess Lissa came to visit. Jake was surprised. He tried to remember all the rules Toric taught him. He bowed his head and kept his eyes down. The princess laughed. It was a warm sound that filled the room. She told him he did not need to be so formal. She wanted to thank him properly. Princess Lissa sat down in a chair near his window. She asked him questions about Earth. What was it like? Did he have a family? What did he do before becoming a security specialist? Jake answered carefully at first. But the princess seemed genuinely interested. Her violet eyes focused on him completely when he spoke. Jake told her about Earth cities and oceans. He described forests where trees were green instead of silver. He talked about his younger sister and his parents. He explained that he became a soldier to protect people he cared about. The princess listened to every word. When he finished, she looked sad. She told him that she understood what it meant to be trapped. She had never left the palace grounds. Her whole life was planned by others. She would marry whoever her mother chose. She would rule Valoria one day, but only in the way tradition demanded. She had no freedom to choose her own path. They were both prisoners in different ways. The conversation made Jake see the princess differently. He thought royal life would be easy and comfortable. But she was lonely. She was surrounded by people who only saw her crown, not her person. Jake realized they had something in common. They both wanted to be seen as more than their duties. After that visit, the princess came to see Jake often. They talked about their different worlds. Jake learned that Valorians valued honor above all else. Breaking a promise was worse than death. Showing weakness was shameful. Yet showing mercy was considered the highest form of strength. It was complicated but starting to make sense. One day, Jake was walking through the palace gardens. The plants here grew in geometric patterns that seemed impossible. Everything was controlled and perfect. He found a water fountain that was not working correctly. Water sprayed everywhere instead of flowing smoothly. Several servants stood around it looking worried. Jake looked at the fountain. He could see the problem. A valve was stuck in the wrong position. He asked for basic tools. The servant seemed shocked that he wanted to fix it himself. In Valerian culture, nobles did not do manual work. But Jake was not Valerian. He fixed the valve in a few minutes. The fountain worked perfectly again. The servants looked at him with new respect. Word spread through the palace. The human who saved the princess also knew how to fix things. Palace workers started asking him for help with small problems. Jake was happy to assist. It gave him something useful to do. It also helped him make friends among the staff. Queen Isara heard about these activities. She summoned Jake to her private chambers. He was nervous. Maybe he had broken some rule by helping the servants. But when he arrived, the queen was smiling. She told him that his actions impressed her. He treated everyone with respect, regardless of their rank. This was unusual and valuable. The queen asked Jake many questions. She wanted to know about human military tactics. She asked about Earth's government and how decisions were made. She questioned him about his values and beliefs. Jake answered honestly. He had nothing to hide. The queen listened carefully to everything he said. Then the queen told him something important. The attack on Princess Lissa was not random. It was planned by people inside the court. There were Valerian nobles who wanted to stop the alliance with Earth. They wanted Valoria to remain isolated and pure. The queen needed to find these traitors, but she did not know who to trust. Jake was an outsider. He had no political connections. He owed loyalty only to the queen because of the life debt. This made him unique. The queen asked Jake to become Princess Lissa's personal guardian. He would protect her and watch for threats. He would be her eyes and ears. Jake understood. His life debt was becoming something more than he expected. Jake's new position as Princess Lissa's guardian changed everything. He now attended every meeting she went to. He stood in the background during official events. He escorted her through the palace halls. The nobles looked at him with suspicion. An alien protecting the princess was unheard of in Valerian history. Captain Velos commanded the royal guard. He was tall even for a Valerian, with scars across his silver face. He made it clear that he did not like Jake. At their first meeting, Velos told Jake that humans were weak and slow. Jake should stay out of the way and let real warriors do the protecting. Jake did not argue. He just did his job. He watched and learned. He studied the palace layout. He memorized the faces of every guard and servant. He noted which nobles visited the princess most often. He was gathering information piece by piece. Princess Lissa noticed his careful attention. During quiet moments, she asked him what he was doing. Jake explained that protection was not just about fighting. It was about understanding threats before they happened. He told her about human security methods. She found them fascinating. One evening, Jake was reviewing the schedule for the next day. He noticed something strange. 3 meetings had been added to the princess's calendar without proper authorization. These meetings were with nobles Jake had been watching. They all supported isolating Valoria from other worlds. Jake brought this to Princess Lissa's attention. She checked her records. She had not approved these meetings. Someone had changed her calendar without permission. This was a security problem. Jake suggested canceling the meetings, but the princess had a better idea. They would keep the meetings and see what these nobles wanted. It was a chance to learn more about the conspiracy. During the meetings, Jake stood behind the princess. He watched the nobles carefully. They spoke about tradition and purity. They said Valoria should not change its ways for aliens. Earth had nothing valuable to offer. The alliance was a mistake that would weaken their society. The princess listened politely but disagreed with grace. After the nobles left, Jake told the princess what he noticed. 2 of them kept looking at the windows and doors. They were checking escape routes. The 3rd noble kept his hand near a communication device. They were nervous, like people planning something dangerous. The princess agreed. Something was wrong. Jake decided he needed help. He went to find Torek. His attendant knew the palace better than anyone. When Jake explained what he discovered, Torek's face became serious. He told Jake that he also suspected something bad was happening. Servants heard strange conversations late at night. Certain nobles met in secret rooms. Torek wanted to help investigate. Together, they began gathering evidence. Torek used his connections among the palace staff. He learned which nobles were spending money they should not have. He found out about secret messages being sent off-world. Jake tracked movement patterns and noted suspicious behavior. Slowly, a picture began to form. One night, Jake was patrolling near the princess's chambers. He heard voices coming from an empty conference room. He moved closer quietly. Through the door, he could hear several people talking. They spoke about timing and coordination. They mentioned the upcoming coronation ceremony. Princess Lissa would be crowned as official heir during this event. Jake pressed himself against the wall and listened. The voices talked about bringing in mercenaries from other worlds. They discussed weapons that could bypass palace security. They planned to attack during the coronation when the princess would be most vulnerable. This was not just about killing the princess. It was a full coup attempt against the queen. Jake wanted to burst into the room and stop them. But he needed to know who was involved. He stayed hidden and continued listening. One voice sounded familiar. Jake realized with shock that it was Captain Velos. The head of the royal guard was part of the conspiracy. This changed everything. The meeting ended. Jake hid in the shadows as several nobles left the room. He recognized each face. Captain Velos came out last. He looked directly at the spot where Jake was hiding. For a moment, Jake thought he was caught. But Velos just smiled and walked away. Had he known Jake was there all along? Jake went straight to find Queen Isara. He requested an emergency private audience. The queen received him in her chambers immediately. When Jake told her what he heard, the queen did not seem surprised. She had suspected Captain Velos for weeks. But she had no proof. Now Jake had given her what she needed. Jake expected the queen to arrest everyone immediately. Instead, she told him to wait. The conspiracy involved many powerful nobles. If she moved too soon, she would cause a civil war. She needed evidence that would convince the High Council. She needed to catch the conspirators in the act. The coronation ceremony would be the perfect opportunity. Jake was angry. The queen was using her daughter as bait. The queen's face remained calm. She explained that sometimes a ruler must make hard choices. Princess Lissa's safety mattered, but so did the stability of the entire empire. If the conspiracy succeeded, millions would suffer. They had to stop it completely, which meant letting it play out. The queen revealed something else. She had been using Jake from the beginning. His unique position as an outsider made him perfect for intelligence gathering. She knew the conspirators would not suspect him. She gambled that Jake would discover their plans. The life debt was not just about repayment. It was a strategic move. Jake felt betrayed. He accused the queen of manipulating him. She did not deny it. She told him that ruling required difficult decisions and sometimes using people. But she also acknowledged that Jake exceeded her expectations. He proved himself honorable and capable. Now she was asking him directly, would he help her stop this coup? The Queen gave Jake a choice. He could leave Valoria immediately. His life debt would be considered fulfilled. The trade alliance would continue. He would return to Earth with honor. Or he could stay and help protect Princess Lissa during the coronation. He would help the Queen expose the conspiracy and save the Empire. The choice was his. Jake thought about everything that happened. He remembered Princess Lissa's kindness. He thought about Torik's friendship. He realized he cared about these people. This was not just about duty anymore. It was personal. He looked at the Queen and gave his answer. He would stay. He would help. But not because of the life debt. He was staying because it was the right thing to do. The Queen smiled for the first time in the conversation. She told Jake that his decision proved he understood what honor truly meant. She began explaining her plan. They had 2 weeks until the coronation ceremony. In that time, Jake would prepare a small team of guards she knew were loyal. They would use human tactics that the conspirators would not expect. The battle for Valoria's future was about to begin. The 2 weeks passed quickly. Jake worked every day with a small group of guards the Queen trusted completely. He taught them human combat tactics. Valorian warriors were strong and trained in formal fighting styles. Jake showed them something different. He taught them about surprise, misdirection, and using the environment as a weapon. At first, the guards thought human methods were dishonorable. Fighting should be direct and open. Jake explained that protecting someone you love was more important than looking honorable. When your enemy does not follow the rules, you must adapt. Slowly, the guards began to understand. They practiced Jake's techniques until they became second nature. Princess Lissa insisted on being part of the planning. She refused to hide while others fought for her. Jake tried to argue, but she was as stubborn as her mother. She had been trained in strategy since childhood. She understood Valorian politics better than anyone. Her insights helped Jake plan better defenses. During their planning sessions, Jake saw a different side of the princess. She was not just a sheltered royal. She was intelligent and brave. She made quick decisions under pressure. She cared deeply about her people. Jake realized he was not just protecting a princess anymore. He was protecting someone he genuinely respected and admired. The day of the coronation arrived. The palace was filled with nobles from across Valoria. The ceremony would take place in the Grand Hall, the largest room in the palace. Thousands of people would witness Princess Lissa being crowned as official heir. It was the perfect target for an attack. Jake positioned his small team throughout the hall. They wore regular guard uniforms and blended in with the other security forces. Captain Velos commanded the main guard units. He did not know that Jake had discovered his betrayal. The captain smiled at Jake when they passed each other. It was a cold smile that made Jake's skin crawl. The ceremony began with ancient rituals. Princess Lissa wore robes covered in symbols that glowed with their own light. She walked slowly to the center of the hall. Queen Isara stood on a raised platform holding the crown. The crowd watched in complete silence. Everything seemed peaceful and perfect. Jake's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He scanned the crowd carefully. Several nobles were moving toward the exits. Guards were shifting their positions in suspicious patterns. Then Jake saw it. A section of the floor near the princess began to glow red. It was an explosive device hidden beneath the tiles. Jake moved fast. He ran toward the princess, shouting a warning. At the same moment, the main doors burst open. Mercenaries in black armor poured into the hall. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Captain Velos drew his sword and pointed it at Queen Isara. The coup had begun. Jake reached Princess Lissa just as the floor exploded. He grabbed her and pulled her away from the blast. The force threw them both across the hall. Jake's ears rang from the explosion. Smoke filled the air. People were screaming and running in all directions. Through the chaos, Jake could see the mercenaries advancing toward the queen. The princess was shaken but unhurt. Jake helped her to her feet. His small team of loyal guards engaged the mercenaries. They used the tactics Jake taught them. Instead of direct combat, they used cover and crossfire. They targeted the mercenaries' weak points. The enemy was confused by these unexpected methods. Captain Velos fought his way toward the Queen. Several guards tried to stop him, but he was too skilled. Jake knew he had to act. He told Princess Lissa to stay behind cover. Then he moved to intercept the captain. Velos saw him coming and smiled. He had been waiting for this moment. The captain was bigger and stronger. He had decades of combat training. His sword moved faster than Jake could follow. Jake dodged the first strike by pure luck. The second strike cut across his arm. Pain shot through him, but he could not stop. He had to protect the Queen. Jake did not try to match Velos in strength or speed. Instead, he used his environment. He kicked a fallen chair at the captain's legs. When Velos jumped over it, Jake threw smoke pellets he had prepared. The captain stumbled, blinded. Jake used that moment to grab a fallen energy weapon. He fired at the captain's sword hand. The blast made Velos drop his sword. The captain roared in anger and charged at Jake with his bare hands. Jake dodged to the side and used the captain's momentum against him. It was a simple human judo throw. Velos crashed into a stone pillar. Before he could recover, Jake pointed the energy weapon at his head. The fight was over. Around the hall, the battle was turning. The loyal guards adapted well to the chaos. The mercenaries expected formal combat but faced guerrilla tactics instead. More importantly, Queen Isara had not been sitting idle. She activated a hidden signal. Military forces loyal to her surrounded the palace. The conspirators were trapped. The nobles who supported the coup tried to escape. They found all exits blocked. The Queen's forces moved through the palace with precision. They arrested every conspirator on their list. The coup failed completely. Within an hour, the palace was secure again. Jake looked around the hall. Many people were hurt but alive. His small team had suffered casualties but held their positions. He felt exhausted and in pain from multiple wounds. Then he remembered Princess Lissa. He turned to find her, but she was not where he left her. Panic filled Jake's chest. He searched through the smoke and debris. Then he saw her. The princess was helping injured guards. She had torn strips from her ceremonial robes to make bandages. When she saw Jake, she ran to him. She threw her arms around him in relief. He was alive. A mercenary appeared behind the princess. He had somehow survived the battle. His weapon aimed at her back. Jake did not think. He pushed the princess aside and put himself between her and the weapon. The blast hit him in the chest. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. He fell to the ground. Princess Lissa screamed. She caught Jake as he collapsed. The mercenary prepared to fire again, but loyal guards shot him down. The princess held Jake in her arms. She was crying and calling for medical help. Jake could barely hear her. His vision was fading. He had done it again. He saved her again. But this time felt different. As darkness closed in, Jake heard the princess's voice. She was telling him not to die. She said she needed him. She said things he could not quite understand. Her violet eyes were the last thing he saw before everything went black. He thought this might be the end. But at least he protected someone he cared about. Jake woke up slowly. His body felt heavy and distant, like it did not belong to him. The medical room was quiet except for the soft sounds of machines keeping him alive. Everything hurt, but the pain was dulled by whatever medicine the Valerian doctors gave him. He tried to move but could barely lift his hand. Someone was holding his hand. Jake turned his head with effort. Princess Lissa sat beside his bed. Her violet eyes were red from crying. Her beautiful robes were stained with his blood. When she saw him awake, relief flooded her face. She squeezed his hand gently and told him not to try speaking. He needed to rest and heal. Over the next few days, Jake learned what happened after he lost consciousness. The coup failed completely. All the conspirators were arrested. Captain Velos and the other traitors would face justice. The High Council confirmed Queen Isara's evidence and supported her completely. Valoria was safe again. Princess Lissa visited Jake every day. She stayed for hours, reading to him or just sitting quietly. She told him about the repairs to the palace. She described the formal apologies from noble families whose members joined the conspiracy. She talked about everything except what mattered most. Neither of them mentioned what would happen next. After 2 weeks, Jake could walk again. The doctors were amazed at how fast humans healed. They said Jake should have died from his injuries. But somehow, he survived. Queen Isara came to visit him on the day he was cleared to leave medical care. She brought important news. The Queen told Jake that his life debt was fulfilled. He saved Princess Lissa twice. He helped stop a coup that would have destroyed the Empire. He exceeded every expectation. The debt was paid in full. Jake was free to return to Earth whenever he wished. A ship would take him home with full honors and the gratitude of the Valerian people. Jake should have felt happy. He could finally go home. He could see his family again. He could return to his old life. But instead, he felt empty. Leaving Valoria meant leaving behind people he had grown to care about. It meant leaving Torek, who became a true friend. It meant leaving the palace that had become familiar. Most of all, it meant leaving Princess Lissa. Jake spent his last few days saying goodbye. The palace staff gave him gifts and thanked him for treating them with respect. The guards he trained expressed gratitude for teaching them new ways to protect what mattered. Torek cried openly, saying that Jake was the best friend he ever had. These goodbyes hurt more than Jake expected. Princess Lissa avoided him during this time. Jake understood why. Saying goodbye would be too painful. On his last night on Valoria, he walked through the palace gardens one final time. The geometric plants glowed softly under the moon. He found himself at the fountain he fixed months ago. It still worked perfectly. He heard footsteps behind him. Princess Lissa emerged from the shadows. She wore simple clothes instead of her royal robes. For the first time, she looked like just a person, not a princess. She stood beside him silently. They watched the water flow for a long time without speaking. Finally, the princess spoke. She told Jake that he changed her life. Before he came, she felt trapped by duty and tradition. She thought her future was already decided. But Jake showed her that people could choose their own path. He taught her that honor meant doing what was right, not just following rules. He made her want to be better. Jake did not know what to say. He told her that she changed him too. She showed him that being royal did not mean being distant. She proved that duty and kindness could exist together. She made him understand that home was not just a place. It was being with people who mattered. The princess looked at him with tears in her violet eyes. She confessed something that surprised Jake. After the coup failed, 3 noble families offered marriage proposals. These were powerful alliances that would strengthen her position. She refused all of them. Her mother was confused and asked why. The princess told her mother the truth. None of those nobles understood what honor truly meant. None of them would sacrifice themselves for others. None of them were like Jake. Jake's heart was beating fast. He asked what she meant. The princess stepped closer. She said that Valerian traditions were changing. The coup proved that old ways were not always right. Her mother was beginning to consider reforms. Maybe someday, even royal marriages could be based on choice rather than politics. Maybe someday, love could matter more than tradition. Before Jake could respond, Queen Isara appeared. She had been listening to their conversation. The queen told Jake that she had another proposal for him. She wanted to create a new position in the Valerian government. Jake would become the first alien member of the Royal Council. He would serve as an ambassador between Earth and Valoria. The position would allow Jake to travel between both worlds. He could visit his family on Earth regularly. He could help build the alliance between humans and Valorians. But more importantly, he would remain close to the people who had become his second family. The queen looked at him with knowing eyes. She understood more than she said. Jake looked at Princess Lissa. He looked at the palace that had become familiar. He thought about Torek and the guards and everyone who welcomed him here. He realized that the life debt was never really about obligation. It was about connection. It was about finding a place where you belonged. Home was not where you were born. Home was where you chose to be. Jake accepted the position. The Queen smiled and left them alone. Princess Lissa looked at him with hope in her eyes. Jake told her that he was staying not because of duty. He was staying because of choice. He wanted to see what the future held. He wanted to be part of building something new between their worlds. Most of all, he wanted to see where this path would lead them. The princess took his hand. She said that traditions were already changing. She would be crowned officially in 3 months. As the new crown princess, she would have more freedom to shape policy. She wanted to modernize Valoria using ideas that Jake shared with her. She wanted to create a society where everyone could choose their own path. It would take time, but change was coming. 6 months passed. The coronation ceremony happened without incident this time. Princess Lissa was officially crowned as heir to the throne. She wore a crown that symbolized both tradition and progress. Jake stood beside her as her official guardian and advisor. The position felt right in a way nothing else ever had. Earth and Valoria were thriving together. Trade ships moved between the worlds regularly. Human engineers learned from Valerian technology. Valerian scholars studied human culture. Jake became a bridge between these two civilizations. He helped solve problems and build understanding. More humans came to Valoria as cultural liaisons, inspired by his example. One evening, Jake received a message from his sister on Earth. She told him how proud she was. She said he was changing the galaxy. She also said their parents understood why he stayed. They knew he found something special on Valoria. They just wanted him to be happy. Jake smiled as he read the message. His family understood. Jake found Princess Lissa in the gardens. She was reviewing plans for new schools that would teach both human and Valerian children together. When she saw him, she put down the documents. They walked together through the paths between the geometric plants. The garden did not seem strange anymore. It felt like home. The princess told Jake about her latest reform proposal. She wanted to change the marriage laws for royalty. If approved by the High Council, royal family members could marry based on personal choice rather than political arrangement. It was a revolutionary idea. The princess looked at Jake with meaning in her eyes. She asked what he thought about that. Jake smiled. He told her it sounded like progress. Real progress meant making space for people to choose their own happiness. The princess moved closer to him. She said that she already made her choice. She chose someone who understood honor. Someone who would protect others before himself. Someone who made her believe in a better future. Someone exactly like him. As they stood together under the Valerian stars, Jake realized something important. He came to this world by accident. He stayed because of duty. But now he remained because of love. Not just love for one person, but love for an entire world and its people. He found his purpose here. He found his home. The life debt that once felt like a prison had become the greatest gift he ever received. It brought him exactly where he needed to be.